Greetings and welcome to another edition of Emerging Tech Talk. I'm your host, Dan York, coming at you from downtown Boston, where we've been here for the Enterprise 2.0 show here at the Boston waterfront. I'm squinting a little bit because for the first time in the 4 days of the show, we're experiencing something called sunshine. It's been a pretty wet, miserable, rainy time up here in Boston. But what I want to talk about is something that we announced yesterday, Voxeo. On the 24th of June, we talked about Twitter integration with our IMified platform. Now, if you remember, we acquired IMified last month, and this brings us the ability to develop applications that can interact with IM, with instant messaging for customer service capabilities or features. So you can talk to any of the leading IM networks, MSN, AOL, Yahoo, or any of the Google Talk, Jabber, XMPP-based networks. Now, what we announced here today, though, was Twitter integration. And part of what we looked at was we've seen a lot of companies looking at Twitter as a way to provide customer service or customer support. And we've seen that companies are looking at this. And so the question really comes up is, if you do this, if you start to respond to customers on Twitter, engage with customers, if you do that, and if you're successful, how do you scale your efforts? How do you deal with a good flow of incoming response? Now, maybe you can afford to hire additional agents who can respond to the Twitter channel. You know, if you look at what perhaps the most visible example of success with customer service has been Comcast and the Comcast Cares account run by Frank Eliason. He's now got a team of 10 people working who are responding to Twitter, to comments on Twitter, to interacting with customers, engaging with customers over Twitter. And that's great. But what if you can't afford to hire those folks? How can you assist in providing better information quicker? And what we've offered now with our technology on our IMified platform is the ability to create automated agents. And the beautiful thing about real-time text protocols like Twitter, but also like IM and SMS, is that unlike phone, you don't have to put up a barrier in front of the user and your human agents. You know, if you think about it with phone, you've got to go through your IVR menu. You've got to go through the IVR wall before you can get to a human agent. With Twitter, with IM, with SMS, the beautiful thing about the real-time text channels is that an automated agent, a bot, whatever you want to call it, can be attached to that channel of communication, but it's the same channel the human agent can be used. So somebody can send in a Twitter to your account, and a human agent who sees it right there can go and respond back right away. But if the human agent is busy, or if it's not off hours, whatever else, you could also have an automated agent responding. And even more so, think about this. At the beginning of almost every customer service interaction, you've got certain questions. What's your account number? What's your name? What product are you using? What product version are you using? You know, those types of things. Well, imagine if you have an automated agent that's watching the stream of messages, and when it sees an incoming message, it looks at it and says, well, are all the pieces that we need to know in there? And if they're not, the automated agent can respond back and say, plane interruption here. The automated agent can respond back and say, so what version of the product are you using? And if and can respond back and do that. So by the time that the human agent gets to actually dealing with the issue, all the information has been gathered there through the stream of tweets. Now, if you're familiar with Twitter, you know there's both public messages, what we call @replies in the world of Twitter, and there's also private messages or DMs, direct messages. And the IMified platform will actually work with both. And there's a peculiarity in Twitter that you have to be following somebody in order to receive a DM from them, and we've got ways to check whether somebody's following you before you can send them a DM, etc. But basically, if you send a DM to your account, your Twitter account, the information will go to your agent, to your application, which can then respond back as a DM or can respond back as a public message. And so it can be doing this. It can be sitting there augmenting what you're doing for your customer service channel. So that's one example, giving information. The other thing could be when your human staff is not available. You know, if you're doing 24/7 customer support over Twitter, well, at some point your North American agents may go home, or maybe you're staffing 24/7. We are at Voxeo, but that's for our 24/7 support, but maybe you don't have that capacity. Well, you can have an automated agent that during the off hours responds back with a message and perhaps a link to a FAQ or something like that, and lets people know that it will be responded to as soon as somebody is able to go and do so. Another example there. Now, these are inbound examples, but you also, of course, have the ability to do outbound communication. So, an example I gave in the press release is, imagine you're a library, and somebody sends in a message by Twitter and says, "Do you have War and Peace available?" Well, maybe it's checked out, but you can then be able to send them a message back when it is checked in. If you had loyalty programs that are triggered when certain sales are available, linked into a CRM, linked into some kind of back office system, those could programmatically be able to go and trigger out outbound messages to Twitter users who are part of your loyalty program. So lots of options that are there. The beautiful thing is that from our perspective, IMified is really just a gateway to all of these instant messaging services and to Twitter. When a message comes in, it then goes out through an HTTP, through a web services call, back over to your application, which then looks at the contents of that tweet, makes a decision, is it going to respond, is it not, what's it going to do with it, and then, if appropriate, responds back. If not, it would wait. You could have other ones that would see, if a key customer sends something in, you could perhaps trigger a IM message to that person to let them know that they need to react right away. You could do things like that to, again, go and generate outbound messages or link all this modus in. For us, this isn't just about Twitter. It's not just about providing customer service via Twitter. It's not about airplanes going overhead and needing a better filming location. It's not about Twitter. It's not about IM. It's about what we call unified self-service, which is really write your application once, have it accessible to your customers, let the customers have a choice of interacting. So the customers can choose to interact with you by phone, in which case they'll get into maybe an IVR system if that's what you've got set up. Maybe they'll send you an SMS. Maybe they'll send you a Twitter message. Maybe they'll use one of the other social messaging tools. You can expect to see us plug more and more into our platform over time as we continue to build out this larger vision of unified self-service where you write your application once and interact with your customers in whatever channel they choose. So that's the message, that's what we're talking about, that's what we're building. You can find out more if you go to www.imified.com, and you can sign up for a free developer account. You can create an automated application, in whatever language you want. Language can be, any language, Python, Ruby, Perl, pick your language. It's a web call to your app, and that's it. So you can go and do that, and you can learn more there. If you already built a bot on IMified, bad location, Dan. If you've already built an app on IMified, you can now just go into the details for that app, and you can go and add a Twitter account to that. It's real simple. We use the OAuth authentication mechanism built into Twitter now, so that you never have to give us your username and password, and it's all right there. So check us out. You can go to blogs.voxeo.com to see some links for more info. There's some examples up on the IMified site in their blog as well. So more coming, and we'll be giving you more options to build apps that will allow you to interact with your customers in whatever way they want to interact with you. If you've got comments about this, please go to blogs.voxeo.com/ETT or send me an email to dyork@voxeo.com. Thanks for watching.